Hello and welcome to another Just Ride podcast, and welcome to our first ever small but select live studio audience. All right? Yep, they're all right. They didn't say anything. Thanks for coming. Anyway, we're all here for this man.
Yeah, they are there.
They are there. We're here for this man, of course. One of the very greatest downhill athletes that we've ever seen. 6 times national champion of the UK. The winner of 8 downhill World Cup races. An overall World Cup winner. No less than 2 second-place finishes at Red Bull Rampage. A 2-time elite downhill world champion. This is going on, I know. And a winner of Red Bull Hardline. The most committed bike rider I've ever seen. It is, of course, G. Atherton. Thanks for coming in, G.
Wow, thank you, mate.
Woo! Yeah! That's what the crowd's about.
What an intro. Very kind.
It was good, wasn't it? Eh?
Yeah, thank you, mate. Very kind.
Well, all true, all true. And actually, small matter of a game of rock, paper, scissors earlier. Elliot gets to ask you the first questions. This is how deep we went to find out who gets to ask you the first question.
I always wondered how that was decided.
Yeah,
better be good, Elliot.
Rob loses at a lot of things. But so, G, really the place that I wanted to start is at the beginning. I remember, I don't know what video it was in, but I remember you talking about how you used to build these jumps with no landing, see how far you could get, go home with the headache. How did you get into bikes? Like, how did all this start?
I remember the exact moment. I remember my brother phoning up the house when I was at home. He was at a friend's house. And he's like, "Gee, my friend's selling a BMX for £10. Do you want me to buy it and bring it back to you?" And I was like, "No, it's okay. Don't worry about it." And Dan's like, "No, you're riding. I bought you this BMX." So we grabbed this bike, and from then on, we were just hanging out on the BMXs on local ground near this little village.
In Somerset, is this?
In Devon, actually,
How old
yeah.
were you at this point then,
Probably
G?
like 10 years old, yeah.
Nippers,
wow.
yeah.
And like you say, we started building these, ramps, jumps, little dirt mounds, sending off them as far as we could go and slap into flat on these BMXs and go home sore and aching. And Mum's like, "You should build something to land on."
That's funny that she was the one that came up with
me
the
and Dan
idea.
looked at each other like, "That's a good idea." But we had no idea this whole sport existed, no magazines or TV or videos. Like, it was just for the fun of it,
Yeah. And I mean, did you know that you would be a professional bike rider? Did you ever have a normal job? Have you ever had like a...
No, I haven't actually.
Good lad.
So far, avoiding it.
Yeah.
And at what point were you like, this is what I want my life to be like, this is what I want my career to be?
Well, it almost happened by accident. Not accident, but it happened without us realizing it. And it happened without us planning it as well, really. I mean, it was always purely about the fun. We would ride bikes for fun without knowing that, it existed and that you could be a professional. And then we went into BMX racing purely because there was a local track not far. And we would spend every weekend, traveling around racing BMX and then going to gate practice all week. And
Did you? You were really into the BMX? I didn't
we
know
loved
that.
it. Yeah. All of us, yeah.
That was your first bike racing then?
Yeah. And,
Cool.
really, really threw ourselves into it.
Rach as well?
Rach started eventually, yeah. She never rode with us at home, but she came to the races and was like, "That looks fun. I want to go on a podium and stand in front of people and stuff."
That was her thing, of course.
Turns out
She was quite good at it.
well, from the first race, she was good. She won her first race. She was on the podium. Me and Athy are there, like slogging our guts out training at like 10 years old. And Rach was winning straight away and never really did it for the riding, but purely because she just loved racing and beating other girls.
Yeah.
But she was quick.
That.
Yeah, they were both quick, actually, Dan and Rach, from the very first days.
Who was quicker at that age, you or Dan?
Oh, Dan by miles. Yeah.
Was he?
yeah, way quicker.
Oh, that's so good. I mean, so Rob introduced you, like, there aren't many riders, I think, in mountain biking or many, like, other disciplines in cycling. How do you describe yourself as a rider? Because I think before it would have been, I'm a World Cup racer. But now that you have, like, a little bit of perspective, like, what is the thing... What's the thread, I guess, along bikes that has kept you interested?
Well, like you say, I think for a long period, I would have just purely described myself as a racer because, when you're head down, hammering away at the racing, week after week, year after year, that's all you're focused on and that's all you think about. But when I kind of had a chance to step back a bit and look at it, you know, all the other stuff I did as well, and you know, the riding that wasn't about the racing, just the stuff we do either for filming projects or, you know, Rampage or all this other stuff, which I loved. You know, it showed me that riding for me was more about just racing downhill, you know, and it still is, probably more so now. You know, it's all about the other stuff, and I would definitely call myself a racer, but I think, you know, all that gnarly kind of sketchy wild riding that goes with it is the kind of I feel like that brings me out a little bit.
Totally.
But it's hard to argue that, you know, you were almost like the purest racer through your downhill career, and your results do tell you that.
Rob, you commentated on G's pretty much whole career.
A lot of it, that's right, yeah.
What are the moments that stand out to you?
Well, I mean, without a doubt, we spoke about it just before we came on. I was like, you know, we're going to talk about 08, Val di Sole, when you and Rachel became elite world champions on the same day. Now, that's almost incomprehensible to pull that off. I mean, is anything ever bettered that for you, to stand on top of a world championship podium and see your sister with another gold medal?
I mean, at the time, I remember it seemed kind of normal and like it was cool.
Because that's what you were doing.
We were just so in that moment, and you know, that's all we were working for. So when that happened, I was like, okay, that's, you know, that happened as it was meant to. Perfect. But then looking back now,
it's crazy.
Wow, that's insane. And I don't look back on stuff, you know. Rachel always kind of jokes about it. I never look at old videos or look at race results. And Rachel and Dan do a bit more than me, but I never have done, and I still don't really look back on things. And
because you want to go forwards?
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what the reason is really. It's just not something I've ever got into. But you know, occasionally a photo will pop up or Rachel mention it, and I'll look back and. Yeah, it blows my mind now looking back at it, really, to think we're both world champs on the same day.
And another, probably even more, you know, ridiculous weekend was when, and I can't remember the year, in Andorra.
Yeah, we had Rachel tell this story, but yeah.
In Andorra, you won downhill, she won women's downhill, and Dan won the four cross, which was a World Cup as well. So you were all in one weekend. You won everything.
You're the best mountain bikers in the world.
I think it's unarguable at that point. Like, you all went home with a win. That is just madness.
We were on Commensals at the time, I think, and I remember seeing...
In Andorra.
I remember seeing Max Commensal at the finish with just a big grin on his face.
I can imagine. Wow. Who did I sign up?
But at the time, I don't remember. Like, I remember it must have been Dan winning on the Saturday evening in the four cross, and then Rach must have won the women's, you know,
before me. Yeah.
But I don't remember like this few hours of just massive pressure, which there must have been.
Yeah.
You know, for me to think, right, this is my, you know, possibly the only chance.
Yeah. Well, you were at the end, like you were the last one. Yeah, everyone else had done their jobs.
Yeah. But I don't remember that, which shows, I guess, at the time I was just fine with that pressure. I was used to racing with that stress on my shoulders. I don't know, maybe I've just forgotten it, but I don't remember those few hours of, you know, sweating and sitting there thinking, Jesus
You
Christ.
had a few World Cup starts, though, over the last 20 years or so.
Yeah.
You're not going to remember them all, but...
No, they all merge into one, really.
That's right.
Yeah. What do you think that it is looking, or I guess was, like when you look back, that made you so good? Like, did you have a superpower, you feel like?
Hard to say. I know that I seem to have like a tolerance for just long periods of pain and discomfort and been okay with that. And really that's what racing is when it boils down to it. Just being uncomfortable and, you know, nervous and tired and anxious and stressed for like long periods of time. And I've seemed to be okay with that. Or it was just the love of it, I guess, just really wanting those wins. And
I would say that you know, is not just you, actually, the three of you, but there's never been, we said it in the intro, there's never been a family or riders I can think of that are more committed. And, you know, Dan, I guess, bailed out of downhill World Cup racing earlier, especially with his injury. But, like, but you and Rachel, like, man, what you've been through, and you just keep coming back and performing at the same sort of level you signed off at. I mean, Rachel's had big injuries as well. That, to me, says it all. That means that the drive, the desire you have to be the best in the world, you know, that I feel like that is,
I think so. And I think because there was 3 of us, it normalized it in a way. You know, we'd be at home and someone would be injured, someone would be recovering, someone would have just won a World Cup.
You're right.
Someone would be like, you know, exhausted from the traveling, but it all was just daily life. There was no kind of big moments where you were thinking, wow, this is insane, or this is getting a bit crazy now, I need to do something else. It just was normal life for like a very long time. And I think because we were all doing it, we all kind of felt like it was just what we should do and what everyone else is probably doing as well.
So racing was just one part of your cycling career, really of your life in general. What are the achievements that you're most proud of? You know, like, is it those World Cup wins, the overall, the World Championship? Is it, you know, winning?
Rampage podiums,
right. Like,
or winning Hardline, because that's a big one as well. And
Massive.
took you a long time to get it.
Yeah, and it probably isn't what you would expect. You know, I'm really proud of the World Champs wins and the World Cup wins, but it's not the thing that like springs into my mind when I think of good times and good memories. You know, things like, there was a stat, I think you probably told me it was, I think at my 100th World Cup, I think I'd had 50 podiums.
Wow.
And
Yeah.
That was,
You've had over 50 World Cup podiums.
and I remember
for sure.
thinking
That's
that was
crazy.
That is crazy, yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Bonkers.
Half the races that you started, you were in the top.
And I was stoked with that.
That's wild.
Can I put a little stat in here? I am a stat man.
I thought you might have a few. That's why I came along.
Yeah.
Tell me more, Rob.
There was 2 years in your career when you were on every World Cup podium, 2010 and 2012. And in 2012, you were also silver medalist at the World Championship. So you podiumed basically everything you rode that year.
Crazy.
And, you know, I mean, that shows that commitment, that drive, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah, that's cool. And that stuff, you know, I'm really stoked with, but I would never, you know, I've never thought about that.
Yeah.
I've not thought about it for years. And
That's because you're a pure racer, I think, and you're just on to the next race or the
Possibly,
next thing.
I guess so, yeah. But, you know, things I'm proud of, I guess, like you say, Hardline, massive, probably because it took me so long to get it. You know, I would have thought I was going to get it that first year, and in the end, it took me like 4 years.
It did, didn't it?
Yeah.
08, wasn't it? Was it?
Well, for Hardline, no.
Later, was it?
Later, yeah.
Sorry, everyone. I just quoted a stat there.
Well, I think one of the reasons why we would expect you to do that, because you had this racing career, but then you also rode Red Bull Rampage.
Yeah.
And so you got 2 second places there. Do you remember when you got the call to go there? Did you?
It's a Rampage. Oh,
yeah.
I remember every single moment of every single Rampage I've done.
Yeah.
And there, you know, something I was really proud of, purely because I love the event. You know, it holds a special place in my heart, and it's a sick event. And I remember the very first time.
When did you first go to Rampage?
I think it was like 2003, perhaps.
Wow.
And I was out in Vegas at the show that used to be there, Interbike, just with a couple of guys. And then they were saying, oh, there's an event out in the desert. If we speak to the guy who runs it, Todd Barber, we might be able to get you in. And
So you didn't even think about going before, like you were the week before.
Yeah, and I didn't know what I was walking into, and I said, yeah, it sounds amazing, let's go. And turned up to the desert. And
It's the gnarliest thing you could possibly do. Sounds great.
And like, as you would expect, I blew myself to pieces. I'd like made this cool run, and it was kind of, as you like, quite fast, quite sketchy, and hit this first step down in my run. You know, I set off out the gate like I was in a World Cup. Absolutely.
Battling on the flats.
And so excited. And I hit this first step down and just overshot it to pieces. Blew myself straight to hospital. Nailed myself.
That wasn't the time. That wasn't when you hit the wall. That was
No. That was 2003. And I was like, right, I know what Rampage is about now. It's a sick event. I came back the next year. Calmed down a bit, you know, built some cool stuff, and I think that was the year I was second. I think Straight won it, and I was second.
Yeah, you did finish second to Straight, and Zink won it, the other guy.
Could have been, yeah.
In 08.
It was those boys.
That's right. Yeah, is that right? Yeah.
No, earlier than that, I think.
Well, I mean, I guess when the next time you got second.
Yeah, maybe.
I only know who beat you.
And then I
don't
went
know who
back
else.
again a few times. And then I was like in this strange alternate time where I was like, massive crash at Rampage, good result at Rampage, massive crash. So I was like alternating. And then it stopped for a bit. And it's one of the things, if I could change anything in my career, I would have just kept Rampage in there for every year.
Really?
So I remember
Why is
Did
that?
you love it that much?
I loved it that much. And I remember stopping because, you know, sponsors would be like, oh, you know, you've got injured again at Rampage. And then the guys would be like, look, it eats into a whole off season. If you're injured, you're not training, you're not ready for the World Cups the next year. And at the time, you know, when the World Cups are purely your focus, on paper you're like, yeah, this doesn't make sense. Let's knock it on the head. And looking back, I wish I'd done every single one because it's such a sick event.
Right.
You know,
Right.
I doubt it would have had that much impact on my career, but But I mean, the times I was there, even when I hurt myself, absolutely incredible event.
Yeah, there ain't nothing like it, is there?
And even with Hardline, you know, World Cups are cool, but when you add in that fear factor, you know, when you add in being nervous at a race.
Do you
for the
like
result,
that? Do you like the fear?
I
Like,
felt the same. The way you said it there, I
yeah,
thought that's a man who
good
likes
thing.
fear.
That's totally not a good thing.
I don't know. Yeah, I guess I'm drawn to it.
Oh my
I don't know
God.
why, but I guess when you're at a race, you're nervous and stressed because of the result. But at Hardline, Rampage, you're nervous because you're like, my God, I need to survive this, you know? I need to get through this in one piece.
Well, so it would be interesting for talk about this this past one when you crashed off the step down. Like, it was your first one back after a while. What was the thought process of building that jump in the first place, and then?
I love that you said that with a laugh.
Because everyone, I mean, from the outside, it's like, this is the biggest thing I've ever seen. It looks big on camera, and like, I've been
Wasn't
there.
it was the biggest drop ever. Someone said it was the biggest drop ever done at Rampage.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, well, that's why I laugh.
That quantifies it.
But you know what's strange is that I went into this Rampage and I was like, I'm just stoked to be back at Rampage. I'm going to have a good time. I'm not going to build anything gnarly because there's no way I could win Rampage now. You know, the boys are
With the tricks and
doing
stuff.
so many tricks and I
yeah.
can do, you know, flips, and that's pretty much it. So I was like, we'll have fun, we'll chill, you know. And I went out there with a few good boys and we had a week's riding, which was really cool. Went to the event and I was like searching for a line, and we kind of found a line. It was kind of busy, so it was tricky to find one. So we went a bit out of the main zone to find something that suited me, quite natural, quite raw. And as we were coming down, looking for a big feature, we got to this cliff, and I was like, well, we could just build a drop off here, and it should be fine. You know, it's not ridiculous, but it should be okay. And then we kind of were like, yeah, no worries, all good, and then started building it, and then one or two lads kind of swung by, and we're like, oh, that's kind of like looking off the edge, like, that's pretty big, pretty gnarly, and we're like, oh yeah, it's all right, isn't it? And then kept building, more and more people come by. And I wasn't stressed about it, but by the end, after a few days, I was like, what have we built here? Because everyone's come by and everyone's really stressed about this. And to me, I was, you know, it was a straightforward drop, just roll in, pop, a little, you know, heavy landing, but it should be fine. And
Yeah.
How much vert was it? 80 feet or
I
something?
think 70
70 feet down.
to the sweet spot.
Vertical.
No.
Yeah, just
way.
to build the picture here a little bit. Yeah, it was
awkward
just because I heard the word little pop come out of your mouth, and I was like, no, it was 70 feet, G. It was 70 feet. 70 feet vertical.
Well, it was bigger and it was a square edge drop, and we were like, that's not going to work very well. So we dug into it a bit. We created this roll in, which made it a lot nicer, and that brought it down to 70, like point to point. So we were like, right, that should be doable. You know, it's a slow roll. You've just got to ease into it, pop, and then it was an awkward, steep landing, but good enough landing, I thought. And then a few days went by, we kind of prepped it. I'd been riding a bit, and I was like, right, you know, I'm keen to tick this off, because when you've got something big, you just...
I was going to say, because at some point, does the feeling become almost like, I have to do it, and I have to do it now? Because it's hanging over you, man.
Yeah,
like,
it's a little bit.
Big deal, right?
And you know, you're out there, and Rampage is gnarly because it's a long period. You're there, like, building hard, like dawn till dusk, every day for 10 days.
Yeah, for a long time.
And, you know, from the first day of track walk, if you've got something big in there, you know, at some point I'm going to have to hit that. So you're like,
right.
You know it's there, you know. And to start with, I wasn't stressed about it, but midway through the build, by the time every single person at Rampage had told me how
good,
gnarly
mate.
it was.
Like, you sure?
Yeah, exactly. And so by the end, I was thinking, right, this is pretty wild, and I'm just going to get it done, you know, tick it off, show everyone it's fine, get it done.
How do you feel as you, like, in the hour up to that? Or was there not even an hour up to it? Like?
It was windy or something, right? Or?
Yeah, well, we were thinking of doing it the day before I actually hit it, and then there was riding, but then it kind of didn't work out, bit of wind, so we put it back. And then the next day, I'd not said I was going to do it, but in my mind I was like, it would be nice to get it done today. But I wasn't going to call it out and
put more pressure on yourself.
More pressure on.
Yeah.
So I started riding, and it seemed fine, and then I did a few roll-ins to it, and you know, it was me, two of the dig crew, and then one other guy from, you know, the event. So I did a roll up to the edge, looked at it, pushed back up, did another roll to the edge, push back up.
Are you tight? Are you tense at this? Like,
Very tense,
You
yeah.
really? Oh, it's real. It's that. I mean,
But
just because of what
to
you
make
do, is it scary? It's really scary for you. Then?
Yeah, it is. It's
you-
terrifying.
It is. Yeah.
And like what was making it worse was each time I rolled to the edge and look over this enormous drop, there'd be like 3 photographers there, push back up, roll back. There's like 15 photographers there, push back up.
Oh no!
Come back, and there's like a sea of media, like everyone from Rampage has come to watch.
Oh, man.
And I'm still in the like, should I or shouldn't I do it now? Like, it's not great.
You were still just like
And suddenly there's
sizing
like,
it up.
Yeah, just this massive wall of like media guys at the bottom waiting, all like crouched in different positions and all waiting for
Yeah.
the inevitable. So I pushed back up and I was like, right, let's get it done. And you've got to fire yourself up in that moment. You've got to.
That last, when you're going to do something like that, you push back up and,
yeah.
and like your stomach, your heart rate is
Yeah.
through the roof.
There's
like,
no moment like it. Like I
Yeah.
can feel a bit of adrenaline
Yeah.
now talking about
Yeah.
it.
yeah.
But in that moment, you just like, you have to summon every bit of bravery,
It's
strength.
not. Yeah, it's not a decision that can take a long time, right?
No.
Right.
No, not really. And I fired myself up for it. I was there like smash myself on my chest, get
Honestly?
myself fired up.
Wow.
And I was like, right, it's on. Helmet on, goggles on. And I knew at the back of my mind, roll down here, slow, gentle pop, drop into it. Because it was quite it wasn't a gap, it was a drop. But of course, by this point, my heart rate's at like 180. I've got like every bit of adrenaline pumping through my body, and I just drop in at like, 50% too fast and just.
Honestly, that much?
Well, way too
Yeah.
quick, and I just
Yeah.
popped off it. And as soon as I like left this lip, because it's like the rolling lip and then like the valley behind,
Yeah.
and I just pop off it, and I was like, oh, I'm dead.
Honestly, that went for your head.
Instantly, as soon as I came over the
my-
crest,
What? When you're in the air, you're like, this is bad.
and I popped off, and I was like, I'm going so deep here. But then to make it worse, as you said, a little bit windy, so it just pulled my front away from me, so I wasn't in like a strong brace position. So I was like out to the side a bit, going way too deep off this gnarly drop. And I remember just thinking, right, just brace up to fuck here, because this is the only thing you can do. And
so
then
you knew you were going to crash when you were
I
looking
knew
at
it
that
was-
landing.
Yeah, I knew.
You
it
got
was-
time to think about all that
I knew it
stuff.
was going wrong then, yeah.
Oh my God.
So I land like at this angle, way deep, like it kind of snaps me round, like kind of cuts me across the landing, turns me round, and then just fires me backwards off the bike. And I like whip backwards perfectly to the flat of the bottom of the landing here and just slap into the ground.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah. I
completely
saw the
backwards.
video.
Forces involved.
massive force
yeah,
backwards,
like,
yeah.
you just dropped 70 feet.
Yeah.
Through
More
the
than-
air.
and then more
It
than
was a
that, because it's
massive
like the
hit.
bottom
Yeah.
of the landing.
Yeah, you probably did go much bigger on that one.
And there was no way to take it, like arms out, like brace. I was just getting thrown in backwards. So I just whip into the floor, like slap my head backwards, and then, game over. Rampage done.
Wow.
Which was gnarly. And I woke up, because obviously I knocked myself out a little bit. Woke up and they were like, "Are you okay?" And I was like, "No, my neck really hurts."
Did you? Is that, yeah.
Yeah. So they whipped stick me on a spinal, stick me in the heli, and sent me off to hospital.
You were, though,
Man.
back watching the next day, I believe.
Yeah.
Apparently, well, I actually saw you there.
Well,
I
it was
saw
kind
you
of-
there with a neck brace on, just bowling around site.
Yeah, I was in the hospital and they were like, "Yeah, you've broken like the back of your skull and like you've broken your back, but I think it's
broke
not
the
too
back of your
bad."
skull as well?
Yeah,
But I
like,
think it's not too bad.
but it should be all right. Make sure you get checked out when you're home. Here's like,
What?
Here's a plastic collar to wear. And I was like, "Really?" And they're like, "Yeah, you're free to go." So I put this like plastic collar on, which is like,
You're free to go.
it's not even
yeah,
like
not
a
back to
strong-
Rampage though.
And I went home and I was like, "Lads, they've sent me back." And they're like, "Okay, cool, what should we do?" And I was like, "Well, I'll chill today because I feel rough." And then the next day, finals day, so we're like, "Well, let's drive up to Rampage."
Well, why wouldn't you, I suppose, you've been given the all clear?
I would be on the couch.
But we get there.
Yeah, true enough. I think I would too after that. You're right.
And what's gnarly, well, Rampage has got like a 3-mile off-road,
Yeah, totally.
fire road, gnarly drive through the desert to get to it.
Oh my God.
You see G in the
Dun,
no,
dun, dun,
so
dun.
he's not
Ben's is-
bobbleheading.
Yeah,
because he's
I
got a
was
neck
like
brace.
in the passenger seat, like gripping my head like this, trying to hold it still. While one of the lads is like easing through these drainage ditches in a big 4x4. Wow, 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 like my head's bouncing around and I was gripping it like, "It's all right, keep going, feels okay." And anyway, we got up there and, I was fine. I just managed to watch the event and say hello to everyone, and it was okay, really.
And then when you got back to the UK, the extent
they
of
shit
the injuries,
themselves.
that's a better way of putting it.
Well, I mean, I think that you have this reputation.
That's a perfect way of putting it.
You have this like crazy reputation in like the downhill world, and now I think in the world in general, of just being one of the toughest people. You've had so many injuries over the years. Like, how do you mentally come back from them? Like, they're not small.
Yeah, and I feel like some injuries I've had, through the racing career, some injuries I'd have, and you'd be like, oh, I'm gutted, that's 2 months off or 6 weeks off, it's this little training, I'm going to miss this. But, up until, and another good stat for you, up until probably like 2018-ish, I'd never missed a World Cup.
Right, I remember
that
this.
right?
Yeah,
somewhere around then. All the way up until the crash.
Wow.
Was it at Mount St. Anne?
No, it was Fort William.
Fort William,
And I got
okay.
kicked off that first kicker
Right.
at the top of Fort William.
Yeah.
And it was when first time on 29s, right?
Yeah, it was the first
You weren't
weekend,
used to
yeah.
that back wheel
That's
coming.
right,
That's right.
that's right.
British
Yeah,
national. I just managed to pip Danny in qualifying, so I was like, right, this is on. Sprinted out the starter hut, hit the first takeoff at 100 miles an hour. Wheel hit me in the arse, and I just completely bucked like up over, and then just dropped me onto my head the other side.
Oh man.
And I was like there on the floor all dazed, like, wow, what's happened? And I looked down, and my leg is at 45 degrees to like my hip. And I was like, oh God, like, is that my leg broken, or is that something else? So I feel around, and I'm like in a bit of a heap, and I'm like, I think it's dislocated. And I know with shoulders, we've had times where you can get them back in, but I got myself onto my like kind of leaning forward, and I tried to pull down on my hip in case it like just popped it back in.
Oh.
I nearly puked.
Oh my God.
and there's no way you're getting a hit back in on your own.
And actually, if you put it in incorrectly, it can kill you.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, it's a major artery goes through there or something.
sure.
It's
Yeah,
like
it's not-
don't ever let.
not a
don't-
shoulder.
No.
Don't pop your own hip back.
Okay,
No, basically
I don't plan on mine coming out.
In all
but-
seriousness, if you do fall off your bike in the middle of nowhere and your hip comes out,
Yeah.
go to hospital. Don't let
chill.
someone else put it in. It's or anything like that. It's
Well,
bad.
I told the doctors, and they were like, no, it took 2 of them to get it in, because they were like, someone has to hold you, and it takes a big lad to like shoulder and
my
like,
man.
because it's a big muscle, But anyway, yeah, so I missed a few races then with that, and I was pretty beat up then, but it all healed up fine, nothing too heavy, but it was it was an injury you remember, because it was a bit traumatic, and it took a long time to get me off the hill, and I was in a bit of a like mess by the time
I
we got
remember
to the
that,
hospital.
yeah.
They drove me to Fort William Hospital, wheeled me into the like main hospital bit, and they were like, "Oh, we don't do that here."
Is that right?
Loaded me back onto the ambulance, and then it was 2 hours to Inverness on this
They
P
wouldn't.
road.
They wouldn't do it in.
No, they didn't do
wow.
it. Yeah, so they took me off to Inverness. So it took a while.
In
Yeah.
agonising pain all the
Yeah,
time.
trying to hold my legs
Yeah.
still so it didn't
That's
come out.
crazy. I mean, have you ever thought about like stopping after any of these injuries? Or?
No, after that one, I was fine.
Yeah.
Like it went back in, rehab. I got back for the second half of the season, but that was the first time I missed races, and I was like, that was crap. But then the next bad injury, is this the injury section, by the way? Because I feel like,
Oh,
I think we can get into it now. Let's go with the injury section
I
right
don't
now.
know
Yeah.
how much I should talk about them.
You can talk
because-
about them as openly as you feel that you want to, I think. Yeah. We're all
totally.
we're
up to
all
you.
normal human beings, and this is the most jaw-dropping chat I think I've ever heard. You know what I mean? So yeah.
Well, I won't be too graphic, and if anyone's squeamish, they can always skip ahead a few minutes, perhaps. But from there, the next injury was the Ridgeline ragdoll.
Yeah.
What year was that now then? That's
21, I think.
So it's fairly recent.
And can you set up like what the Ridgeline was and what was going on there?
So the Ridgeline filming, it started around lockdown, I guess 2020. We built this cool Ridgeline at the top.
Is that when
of
you got more into filming then?
Yeah, there was
because there was no races on, right? So everyone was
Basically,
scrapping
yeah.
for stuff to do.
And I was just cutting around on the trials bike, found this cool ridge at the top of the bike park, built a cool line with the boys, and we filmed it and put it out, and it got millions of views.
Yeah.
It was really cool, and I loved every minute of it. it was such a breath of fresh air from the racing. So I was like, right, cool, let's do another one.
And that was the video with the big sort of straight line sends down through the heather.
Exactly.
Yeah,
big sends, drone shots, quite
big
simple.
Sends, big gaps.
Quite a simple concept, big gaps, big exposure, you know, quite high risk, but a lot of fun to ride and quite gnarly. But we did it again and did one called the Slate Line, which was kind of quarry, sketchy, big drops. Again, quite high risk, quite high exposure.
Did you feel pressure because the first one had been so big and so successful that this one had to kind of build
not
on
pressure,
that?
not really pressure, but more like a sense of that was awesome. I want to do it again. And I'm quite impatient, and that's often the undoing of me, you know. And so we rushed into this next one, and I survived this kind of Slate Line filming, but by the skin of my teeth. And then I was like, you know, by this point, the momentum was picking up more.
A big drop at the bottom of that one, right?
Yeah,
I remember that one
exactly.
as well. Yeah.
And it was sketchy. It was sketchy, but I got through it, and I was fine. And then, you know, me being me, I was like, right, let's do the next one. And I find
you're in it making films at this point, aren't you?
Yeah,
you're in it pushing,
and it's going
it's a new
well.
thing for you, really. This at this moment,
and everyone's telling me, look, you're playing with fire here. Be careful. And
Yeah.
I'm like, you know, don't worry, I'm invincible. I'll be fine. So we find this next one. And it was this rocky, gnarly, steep, like a dragon's back of rock down this kind of awkward Welsh mountainside. And we looked at it and decided absolutely not. There's no line up there, no way. And then we ended up going back again. 2 or 3 times we went back, still no line. And then I went back again, and suddenly I was like, if I hack that bit of rock off and get to here, there might be a line. So yeah, we go up there, build a line, which I could just about do, but it was...
I remember seeing practice for this, right? And if 2 people didn't grab your handlebars and stop you, you were going to be in big trouble.
That's how we were testing it, yeah.
It was high risk.
It was very high risk.
Massively exposed.
That seems
it was bonkers. What was
I would drop in, and on the run out there had to be 2 big lads there to grab me.
Stood like one foot behind the other to stop him, to grab him.
Like shoulder into me, and I'd like slam into them,
you
and I'd be like,
if you saw it really.
Gee, there was actually no line there.
And we did it in these small increments, and I was like, right, there is a line here, you know, bring in the film crew, let's get it done. And we did it like top to bottom, and it worked, you know, by the finest of margins.
So before the crash, you did do a top to bottom of it. I did not know that.
I'd done it all.
You did ride it out, man.
And we were on the second day and on the last section, and I'd done the drop, but I was like, right, I'm going to do it and then ride out, and that'll be because you need to leave like the last shot, you know, to ride out of the frame. And I drop in, not properly concentrating, slightly case a drop, kick off this rocky outcrop, and ragdoll through what is just a minefield of sharp bedrock.
You fell down. You had a mountain accident. You fell off. You fell off the side
really?
of the mountain. It was
it was a cliff.
I mean, to watch it, I will admit I've only watched it once.
Yeah, same.
Like, oh my God.
I can't rewatch it. I don't watch it back.
And the injuries from that, and this is before. Remember that you went to Rampage. We spoke about that earlier.
Yeah.
The injuries. I mean, can I talk
the
about
injuries
it a little
were
bit?
huge,
They were catastrophic. Can I just say, like, you know, your girlfriend told me that, like, she tried to support you on the side of that hillside, and she said that your ribs had gone and her hands just like disappeared into you, and that you had to have. Am I right in thinking that you had to have 2 blood transfusions in the helicopter to save your life, man? I mean, that, you know, there ain't no getting away from it. That's the facts.
Well, every time I struck the ground, it was just sharp rock, and every hit was like chopping through me. So as I bounced down a hill, it was just, you know, hacking through me, like through my femur, through my ribs.
Do you feel, are you out of it at this point, or are you sort of going, oh, that's my leg?
I was knocked out in the crash and don't remember, but I remember the moments before, and I remember, you know, coming around on the ground, and I was in a bad way. Like my femur was what they call a high impact fracture, so like 7 or 8 pieces.
What?
You know, it had come
you can
through,
see it go in the
it
crash.
had gone through the bone had come through everything and all the way up to the skin. Luckily it stopped. But then my ribs were all broken. I'd punctured a lung. My wrist here on the radius had blown through the skin and was just like poking out.
Oh my God.
I blew my eye socket open, like fractured all that, broke my nose, knocked myself out. I was bleeding everywhere. And I'm lay on the floor, like, as I come round, and I think, oh my God, this is quite a bad one, you know. I was like, aware how beat up I was,
Quite
Were you?
bad.
Were you scared? Do you get scared? Are you frightened for your life at that point?
I wasn't, but I was in I guess I remember thinking, right, I'll be okay. I can survive this because you go through right, can I breathe? Yeah, I'm bleeding, but I think it's okay. I can just wait. And I kept saying, apparently, can you call Athy? Call my brother, because I was like, there's no way I can get off the mountain here. The only person I thought would be would have a solution was Athy, was Dan. So I was like,
big brother, man.
I kept saying it, call Athy, because I knew he had a spinal board, etc. So yeah, like you say, Katie, my girlfriend, was there. Moonhead was there, my mate Cogsy, Robbie Mead, and they're all in, what the hell do we do mode? Because I was obviously in a bad way, probably didn't have that long to go before I would have, been on my way out.
Right, yeah.
And like you say,
these are the facts of it.
They're holding me and trying to keep me still, but as they're pressing on me, after a while I couldn't breathe, and then after a while I was like, guys, my hand looks like it's going to drop off because it had gone blue, no blood in it, swelling up.
God, no way.
I was like, you need to get my elbow pad off because it's chopped into my. So they're trying to pull this tight elbow. You know how a tight an elbow pad is over this
no way.
broken, splintered, bony.
And this is all just
forearm.
on the side of a mountain, halfway up a mountain in Wales, man. It's
And then anyway, after 40 minutes or so, the heli comes to me. They're hovering around. And they're like, guys, we can't get to you there.
Oh my God.
We're on the gnarly steep. They're like, we can't land there. We can't get down. So they landed at the bottom of the valley, and then they had to call, I think it was a Sea King, basically the Coast Guard.
Yeah.
So the Coast Guard comes out, and they winch down to me, spinal board, and wrap me up and pick me back up, take me down to the air ambulance, swap me over.
Good grief.
Blood transfusions, because I was,
My
touch
God.
and go then.
You were touch and go at that point?
Yeah, a little bit. I started to crash a bit, and then they shot me off to the
oh my God, I can barely listen to this.
Yeah, actually. It's heavy.
That is the most insane story I've ever heard in my life.
It was rough, and it was bad for me, but the guys on the hill, like my girlfriend Katie, Robbie Mead, Moonhead, those guys, I can't imagine the trauma they went
through. Probably life-changing for them, to be honest.
A little bit, yeah.
Traumatic.
I think so.
Go through something like that, yeah.
Yeah,
Your
heavy.
mate you're watching,
yeah.
Whatever, yeah.
I mean, I asked you before, but why ride again or race again or do these things again after something like that?
Well, that was a bad injury. I knew then, I was like, right, I don't want to ride again.
Did you? Did that go through your mind?
A little bit, yeah.
I've had I remember crashing in Sladming and I winded myself bad and I had to get hospital and I broke a couple of ribs, not in his league, but I remember laying in this.
Absolutely, yeah.
Laying in the gutter.
Yeah.
And I was just crying, going, if I survive this, I'll never ride a bike again.
Totally.
And that happened a few times. And you're the polar opposite of that. Where does that?
No, I'm not though.
Are you not?
I had that exact thoughts.
Did you?
And I was in that, that mess afterwards, which was, a couple of days in the trauma ward in ICU.
Plenty of time to think.
And then 10 days in just the normal ward. And I was like, I don't want to ride again. And at the time, I probably thought I wouldn't ride again.
Did you?
And I think it's a coping mechanism, it's a way of dealing with it. It's a way of your mind being like, right, this is bad, but don't worry, it will never happen again.
Right.
And it's the only way you can deal with it in that moment, I think.
Right.
You have to say,
you need a way out. Almost.
Never again, don't worry, this is never going to happen again. And you have to tell yourself that, otherwise, it would be hard to cope with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. It's the only sort of valid option at that point.
Yeah,
that's right. But you did come back, and you did somehow put that behind you, and you were on the line in 2022.
Yeah.
How long was
Back
that?
to Hardline.
How long was that, man?
It was about a year.
And I know that everything in your recovery really was to that point, to race Red Bull Hardline, right? And I also know that your femur hadn't healed and you had a gap in your femur while you raced Hardline. I didn't know it, right? And then afterwards someone told me and I was like, no. And they were like, yeah, his legs aren't level. So I actually went home and I was like, and one of your legs was weaker and you couldn't hold your pedals level whilst hitting the hardest features that are ever put in front of you.
Yeah, it was gnarly.
It's right?
Yeah, it was painful.
Oh my God, man.
Because there was so much metal work in the femur, because it was in lots of pieces. If it had just been a snap, it would heal back together, and you'd probably be fine. But because, it was like they said they only really see these kind of breaks in, you know, bullet wounds or big car crashes where it goes through and just kind of blows it to pieces. So the metalwork was basically all that's holding it together for a long time. And then before that hardline, I think it was around the new year, like January of that year, I'd been away somewhere in Europe for a week, and then I was coming back through the airport on my way home, and I was like walking really slowly in a lot of pain, you know, more pain than normal by that point, and it didn't feel right. Anyway, I went in for a scan, and the bolts that were holding the bottom of the femur rod in had snapped.
Snapped?
So the bolt...
Snapped?
Snapped, yeah. So you have the rod going through the medullary nail.
Is that because you'd been overdoing it?
Possibly, yeah.
I don't think bolts snap on their own, G. I don't know.
I was just like, it's like somebody like sitting their bike in the warranty. No, it's just riding along. It's just on the couch.
Yeah. Well, that's what I said, you know, the physio's blamed it on me, of course, but I think it was a fault with the metalwork perhaps. Anyway, so they tell me that, and at this point, that's the worst news, because the only way to remedy that is the femur pin coming out, you know, the medullary nail coming out.
Through the top.
Yeah. Then re-boring the inside of the femur, and then a fatter pin going in.
Don't tell me that. Is that what they did?
That's what they did, yeah, that January.
What?
And then 4 more pins at the bottom, and then 4 more pins at the top.
So they basically redid it.
And then I come around from the operation, and the surgeon's there looking really pleased with himself, and he's like, "You won't break that one." Big. He's like, "That's about as big as we go with a femur."
Oh, yeah. That is so...
And I was like, perfect.
I mean, it makes sense that you would target hardline because it's your brainchild. Can you talk us through, like, we've been talking about it for a long time now.
It's coming up.
Yeah, it's coming up,
yeah.
You know? And how did that get started? How did that, you know, we heard Afi talk about it at Tasmania.
Yeah.
But in your words, what did that...
Well, it was a very simple conversation with Red Bull, and it was me and Dan talking about how cool it would be to just build, you know, the gnarliest track we possibly could make, and then invite loads of people to it and race down it. You know, me and Athi have always talked about how the World Cups aren't hard enough, and we'd come home and be riding tracks that were so hard, and then feel like we dialed things down when we went to World Cups, which in our eyes was a little bit backwards. You know, we wanted.
And you were known for that at that point, because that hardline, where it is, the root of it, is one of your first tracks.
Yeah.
It didn't look like it does now, but it's one of the very first tracks you added when you moved to North Wales to basically get better at downhill, right?
Yeah, that's it. And the way Athi used to find tracks to build, he would look on an OS map and be like, right, what's the biggest mountain we can find with a fire road to the top? And he would find, you know, this one that
Is that what it was?
Wow.
And it's the biggest, you know, the biggest mountain around that area with fire road access to uplift. And we built this really gnarly downhill track down it, and it kind of, after a while, we didn't ride it and we forgot about it. And then when we had this conversation with Red Bull, you know, almost straight away, Athi's like, I know exactly where we should go. I know just the place for it.
And is it true, on a side note, that Petey went practicing with you there once and broke himself?
Yeah.
We won 17 World Cups, Steve P, of course.
Petey and Pagey and a few other lads, and me and Athi were so excited they were coming down, and we were like, we've got to take them to the gnarliest track we can, they'll love it. And first day, first run, he crashed and broke his finger. And
oh my goodness.
They were raging, they were like, we're going home.
Hey, why did you do this?
But that was this hardline track.
What did Red Bull say when you said like the exact same thing you just said? I want to find the hardest, most difficult thing, and then we're going to hold a race down it.
They loved it. and me and Dan were like looking at each other like, I think they mean it. I think they're going to let us do it.
No way.
And Red Bull were like, yeah, like, you know, we don't really know what you're going to do, but it sounds cool. And then we were like building this track, and then we weren't really sure whether the event was going to happen or not. And Red Bull, I don't think really were sure at the time. And then anyway, we were like, right, we've built the track, let's do it. And then they came and looked at it, and they were like, okay, is this like,
when are you guys going to finish it or whatever?
Yeah. They were like, is this okay? Will people be fine on this? And we were like, yeah, it's fine. The riders will love it.
It's mellow.
And I had my dates wrong earlier, of course. I was out by a decade. The first Red Bull Hardline was 2014. So this weekend is 10 years.
Yeah, 10-year anniversary.
10-year anniversary. Excuse me for that mistake. But it was 2018 you won.
That's it.
Yeah.
So we had this track, and we had this gnarly, sketchy course, and we invite a load of riders over. Hardline number 1 starts, and I think we ended up with like 8 people in the final.
Do you
Well,
think,
that's-
was it a little? Do you think the first edition was maybe a little ambitious?
Well, I mean,
In hindsight,
yes. Like just go through that first week, because I mean, I was racing World Cups at that point, and the whole season was talk about like, they're going to do hardline, and it's going to be, the hardest, the kind of the canonical most difficult track is Val di Sole, and it was kind of the way it was described was, we're going to do Val di Sole with the biggest jumps you've ever hit on a downhill bike. So the hardest trails, I mean, exactly what you said. And it wasn't, like Rob said, it wasn't all smooth sailing first year.
No, it really wasn't. And we were like, me and Athy were riding. And the way we used to do it was, we'd get everything built and then we'd test it all. And, me and Athy would just take it in turns, going down, testing it, making sure it worked, guinea pigging everything. And then we were like, right, it's fine, everyone's going to be fine with that. It all works. And then everyone turned up and, they were like, what is this? Like, they didn't like it. They were like not really keen on it. And
I don't think anyone had ever
really
seen anything.
No, they'd never.
Never
There
had
was
anything like that put in front of them before.
No,
like everyone
no.
was miles out of their comfort zone.
a little bit. And I think because we saw it grow bit by bit, we had our heads around it. But if you turn up and it's just there and someone's like, right, off you go, that's quite intimidating.
And it was quite difficult because around 30 riders turned up. And by the time we got to the Saturday or the Sunday of the race, there was literally 8 people left.
Did they
ride.
crash?
22 people had gone. Bike failures, crashes. There was people landing up in trees and having to climb down. Like, it was madness.
Wasn't there?
Reece Wilson landed
that's
halfway
right,
up a
that's
tree.
right. I
mean, it
remember
was
that.
it was
I
like
remember
Wild
chaos.
West.
And
It was mad.
Best riders in the world as well.
Yeah.
There was lads going off to like local garages to get like bits of their bikes welded.
Wow,
Because, like, they wanted to race the next day,
Yeah, it was absolutely
That is
it was madness.
amazing.
Yeah.
It's another one of those things that will never happen again, probably. You know what I mean? Like, it's
possibly.
just
For
so-
there to be that big of a jump in progression.
Yeah.
Well, we say that, but I mean, so it has progressed over the years. I think, 2 years that you guys put in the 70-footer and the 90-footer?
Yeah.
22,
Well,
wasn't it?
it's progressed kind of bit by bit for quite a while, and then there was a big jump when we put in the big 90s last year, and then a new drop or a couple of years ago. And then this year, there's an entire new top section, which is really gnarly. This year.
Hang on a minute.
After
Hang on,
the last
This is gonna
bit
be
of this,
brutal.
yeah,
This is bad. If G is laying this out there, then oh my goodness me.
we're at 2014 all over again.
Explain it. What's happening there?
What is
'Cause none of us have
G
seen it.
Atherton?
What's hard with Hardline is...
Now, what's hard with the new track? What have you done?
Yeah, I'll just put it.
Importantly.
I'll give it a tiny bit of context. You build Hardline, you make it as gnarly as possible. The riders turn up, everyone hits it. The next year, you have to make it gnarlier again. And we've been doing that for 10 years now.
Right.
So the old track, we got to the point we were like, we can't make this any bigger. You can't make gaps just indefinitely long. It doesn't work after a while.
Right.
So we had a new change. We said, let's move the whole top section over, start higher up. Let's take it back to its gnarly, rough downhill routes. There's a lot of exposed rock.
Yeah, because Tasmania was a different hardline. When you come at hardline Wales, the features are one thing.
Exactly.
The stuff between
Yeah,
the features is
yeah.
insane,
Exactly.
difficult, and a lot of people probably don't realise that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think, with Tasmania, which was an awesome event, went really well, we wanted
A
to...
beautiful track they built.
We wanted to kind of move away from what they've done a little bit, so there was variety. And
Yeah, right.
we've gone back to quite a gnarly, rough, natural track, and then it goes a different direction. We cross the opposite side of the valley, a couple of stream jumps. We got this whole track, which was really good run, and then you get to this like ravine, and we were like, oh, we need to get back to the other side now. And Athy's like, oh, don't worry, we'll just build some scaffolding and put like 100-foot gap across there. And they've just jumped back to the other side.
And don't tell me that's exactly what you've done.
Exactly.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Athy would describe it as, we'll come down the hill there, then we'll jump across the river. And I was like, Athy, that's not a river, that's a valley. And he's like, yeah, we'll just get, Red Bull will be fine with it. We'll put some scaffold across here, and then put a big lip there, and we'll land over there. And I'm like looking around, like, oh, up there you mean, like on this other side of the hill. So yeah, that's what's happened. And
It's done.
It's ready.
This is what's happening this weekend.
And this weekend is the first test of it. And honestly, I think it'll blow people's minds.
Will it?
Yeah.
Will it really?
Yeah. If you're listening to this, watching this, tune in because it's going to be a while.
Is it? Is it?
I think so.
I cannot wait. Man,
I don't know what to think. Oh, I'm nervous. I'm nervous. Are you on that? Oh, then we're in real trouble.
I am so excited to see this. Well, you showed a little sneak peek of it, and it looks like I don't even know, an airport, like a launch. I don't even know. Like, it's not a bike feature. But
What made me nervous is the first time I went to look at the kind of, not the finished article, but like, you could see the basic structure by this point. And I thought, oh no, this isn't going to work. And whenever you think that about, something like Hardline, it's going to be quite gnarly, because often you're like brave the other way and you think, oh, I'll be fine, and then it's kind of hard. But when you think, Christ, this may not work, you've got
it's a different feeling.
heavy feature in there. Yeah.
you did this other thing too this year with Johnny Walker, hard enduro rider.
Yeah.
He rode his motorcycle down like the track from last year.
Absolutely.
What was that like? How did that come about?
Well, it was just a classic, ridiculous Red Bull idea, like, let's get Johnny Walker, one of the best motorcycle riders in the world, to race down Hardline and see if he can beat you.
And he set a time, didn't he?
Set a time, yeah, and he went really quick.
I bet he did.
Which it shows the caliber of rider he is, because Hardline's not built for a motorbike.
But he did win Erzberg Rodeo 5 times.
That is.
Yeah,
So,
this is true.
you
This
know.
is true. But he
Three,
was,
maybe. 3. I think I credit him too many there. Sorry, Johnny. I think it's 3. Excuse me.
you would know.
I should know. It's 3.
But he was nervous
3.
for it. He was
Yeah.
texting and like, is there anything I can do at the bike park that will like prepare me for hitting the road gap on my moto?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, because the road gap would probably, to me, be the most daunting of all the features on a motorcycle, like
Yeah.
the weight of it and gauging the speed. And if you overjump it, you're in real
Absolutely.
trouble.
But, he went up there, and what was interesting was it was just like watching one of the riders go up for Hardline. The approach, work your way down it, tick each thing off as soon as you can, go up, do a full run. And then once he'd done the full run and done a time, he had that same glint in his eye that all of the racers have,
Yeah.
like that excited, like buzz that he just survived it, but he wants to go straight back up and try and knock a few more seconds off.
Yeah.
And it was just like watching the downhill races. He would go straight back up, fast run. Oh, I've knocked 4 more seconds off. I'm going for another one.
Yeah.
Straight back up.
Oh,
And
you got
was,
into it?
It was really cool to see, because he was buzzing. He was excited. His eyes were like
On
you
stalks.
could tell he was just terrified, but so excited. And he was just doing fast laps, just like a downhill bike.
Yeah, that is
It was
so
nuts. Yeah,
So cool.
really cool video.
Gee, you've done so much. You've achieved so much. What's next? Like, what do you look forward to?
Well, for me at the moment, obviously, those filming projects coming up.
You've been to Kazakhstan.
Well,
been out to Kazakhstan.
One of the things why, I said that, one of the things that we didn't touch on was just Atherton bikes.
Yeah, well, Atherton Bikes is 5 years last year, so it's 5 years old, going from strength to strength. An incredible project that's keeping everyone absolutely
A
buried.
world championship title.
Yeah, world
That
champ
must have
last
been
year.
to win in Fort William with a British rider on a British bike, man.
Yeah,
I mean,
it
that
gives
is.
me goosebumps.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's actually.
Yeah, Charlie Hatton, what a boy.
Yeah.
Well, both of them, Andy as well.
Yeah.
He
Andy
was silver
second.
though.
Yeah. And a
just-
World Cup winner as well.
Yeah, it's happening.
So good.
Yeah.
How's the development been? Is that due a lot of that down to the development of that bike?
I mean, a lot of it is, but a lot of it's down to, them being incredible athletes, bloody good riders, them being in an environment where, they're comfortable, relaxed. The race team's, a good team of people, the mechanics, Lloydie, all the boys have just done a great job with it. And, we've worked hard on that bike to make sure it's not just a good bike to ride, but a good bike to race. And that was, from the moment we came about the Atherton Bikes concept, that was the goal,
Right.
Create bikes that we would have wanted to ride in our career, and create bikes that are capable of winning World Cups. And,
Done it.
it
Yeah.
worked.
So I interrupted you, but you were talking about the filming projects.
Yeah, the filming projects. So, we've got this range of Atherton bikes that are, not just the downer bike, but the 170 and the trail bikes. And for me, the idea of taking those to some cool locations and doing some wild stuff on them was, you know, pretty exciting. So last year we went out to the Dolomites. We went out because we'd done these filming projects at home.
Oh my goodness.
And we'd had really good success with them, and we were like, let's just pick up that idea and put it down in a gnarly mountain range in the Dolomites, you know. So me and a couple of mates head out to the Dolomites, you know, no idea what to expect. Yeah, me, Moonhead, and another
I think he was terrified on where you took him.
He was.
Yeah, he told me about it.
But he turns up in like trainers, a hoodie, like some cargo pants, and we're like, you know, 4,000 meters, like there's snow. We're like hiking up these mountains to scout it, and you know, we get to a point on the path where the path finishes and there's just like a gully of snow and ice, and these gullies, you know, fall away to the valley floor. But we need to cross it, and you know, you should have crampons, some ropes, and ice axe. Moonhead's in his trainers, you know, I've got hiking boots at least, but nothing else. And I was like, right lads, I think if we just kick our toes in, you know, we can cross this like snowy gully of doom. So we, you know, we're crossing these gullies and climbing these rock faces.
If you'd fallen, would it have been game over?
Well, yeah.
My word.
And one of the guys filming the Dolomites when we went back out, his name's Brodie Hood. He's from Scotland. He's a gnarly dude. He's been up Everest twice.
Has he?
Wow.
You know, he's on the mountain rescue team in Fort William. And he was like, listening to us tell him about this scouting trip we've been on. He's like, yeah, we pull a lot of bodies out the bottom of those snowy gullies from people doing that.
Did he?
You guys were really lucky there.
Oh my goodness.
And we were just,
Is that right?
At the time we were like,
so the rescue was almost as risky as the film.
possibly, yeah. But the film was cool. You know, we went out there a bit more well equipped this time with the bikes, you know, hiking up these gnarly rock faces to find these little sketchy sections. And
when you see the films you do, you know, I think people probably assume it's a massive production and there's like loads of people have gone out there and it's all been planned, but
it's really not.
No, you actually, it's literally like you said, you were on the side of that mountain in Wales injured for 40 minutes. Yeah, because you know, you're just going there and you just do it. You've got your cameraman, you've got what you need to film. Yeah, it's you know, that, I mean, yeah, it just adds to the sort of bravery. I mean, to do these, what you do in these locations it's even riskier. You know what I mean?
Well, I think the draw to these big mountain projects is, you know, you going out to such a hostile, inaccessible environment with a bike, with a view to finding a line that, you know, not many people have ever ridden before.
Yeah.
And, you know, the Dolomites worked and was insane. And we went out to Kazakhstan to do an equally sketchy, you know, poor equipped scouting trip.
Hang on, I do know a little bit about the recce on this. They nearly starved. Right, come on.
Yeah, it was a tough. It was a tough week.
I don't even know if I want to know more.
No, it was fine. It was all safe. But we land in Kazakhstan with no idea what to expect. Drive out into the middle of nowhere. Kazakhstan's enormous.
Yeah,
you know, it's the size of Europe or something. And
what?
Absolutely vast, you know. And there's just nothing there.
What? No garages, 24 hours.
Oh, we were like in the middle of this desert, like nowhere around. You know, there was nowhere to get water. We would have to fill up this like sketchy tap water and put like chlorine tablets in. You know, there was nowhere to get food, so we'd be like crouched in these little guest house like rooms that you stay in at night with a little gas stove, cooking like boiling water to pour on like dried noodle packs that we'd taken out with us.
It's all like that.
So for a week we just ate dried noodles for lunch and dinner. And it was pretty heavy week, like long hikes, like, you know, the mountains out there are enormous. It's like 7,000 meter mountains that like you've never heard of before.
Why? Is that
Huge
right?
mountain ranges, yeah.
Crazy.
We couldn't get up to the top of those. We will though.
You tried. Was that the next project?
We're going back in August time to tackle it. So
With the bike?
With the bike, yeah.
What, and you're going to try and do an 7,000 metre peak?
I mean, it depends on the snow. It'll be a big mountain project. And
I can't wait.
Man.
watch this space.
Oh my goodness.
Gee,
We're ready for it.
This has been so cool. Like, I mean, I think both of us have known you for a long time, but I think you just and it's similar to Rachel, like that you guys have done so much and you've lived so much life.
Yeah.
And such a unique mindset,
And
I think, as well. Yeah, it's just
that's
it's awesome.
That to me, that's the most impressive bit. And Rach as well. You know, and Dan, you've got this quality that almost no one else has, to be able to put like massive crashes, injuries, things that make people retire, absolutely behind you and just come back, man. And that is a quality not many people have.
We love it, man. Like all three of us.
And you can
it's
see
the same,
that.
It's the same trait through all of us, that we just love, riding. We love the sport, whether it's racing or filming or, riding the bike park at home. So, people ask how you come back from these injuries. It's not, for me, it's not a grind, If you love something enough, it just draws you back. It pulls you back. And for me, it was the way I got over those big injuries, You're looking at riding thinking, right, I'm 6 weeks away or I'm 2 months away, and you're just buzzing to get back out there and get back up the next mountain and find another cool project, It's what you love, and it just pulls you back to it.
That's what you do.
Yeah.
That's what you do.
Yeah, it really is.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for coming on. This has been
Thanks for having me.
It's going to take a while to process this one, G. Thank you so much, mate.
Oh, you're welcome, man.
Mate.
Very cool.
Thank you, G.
Thanks, boys.
Good stuff, man. That was great.